Hey,
Hi everyone. I am Matteo Collina, and this is the Streams working group meeting. There is Calvin and Irina here with me. Some more people might join later on, if possible. We'll see. And yeah, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. So the first issue was, let me tweet about this. Here we go. And the first issue is the usage of bind. So I don't know if you know about this, but from Node v7 for the v8, I think 5.4, and Node v7 bind has become super fast from being a completely and super slow thing in the past. It became a super fast. It generates super fast now, which is a bit weird. So what happened was that there have been a couple of PRs from Brian White that improved performance on HTTP, on the HTTP module greatly, actually. On that branch on my machine can do 30,000 requests per second from 25,000.
That's nice.
Really good, really good work. But part of that is because it replaced a lot of the closures that we were creating with bind, and also in streams, in particular related to the whole write v thingy. And now one of the problem which I said to him we needed to address this is because given that in previous versions of Node, bind was very slow, there is the high chance that we are probably going to slow things down quite a lot. So I asked him to improve, to send us a PR to replace bind more or less out and put everything back in.
Yeah. So, and part of this is just that at some point the problem is that Chrome and stuff is using the up-to-date version of V8, so that's gonna want bind in there.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not that the arrow function is lower, okay? It's not that the arrow function is slow. It's the function thing is slow, okay? It's slightly faster. Now the problem is when you're trying to do 25, 30,000 requests per second, there is less problematic. It's more problematic. When you're in the browsers, these change very little.
Okay, so the slowdown, so the speed up for the bind is not very fast, especially compared to the slowdown?
The slowdown is, there's a lot of slowdown in Node v6, for example, but the difference between the two is not that high. Right now, it's sizable, but not crazy. I may have a benchmark actually. Let me check because I've done it. ES6 because I was really curious, of course. Let me. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I have a benchmark. So let me run the benchmark. Now it's probably not going to be so perfect because we are the Hangout, but
maybe you should screen share that if you can.
Yeah, I can try to do that. Yes, let me do it. What it is? Here we are. Screen share. Yes, here we go. Okay, can you see it?
No, it's just. Oh yes, now I can.
Okay, let me Can you? This
Yes.
is better.
Yes, I can see.
So now I am on node 6.9.2, and I can do a bench bind. This is from my training thingy, but now let me cut this thingy, bench bind, and this is what it does. Is basically a sum function, whatever, to create usual load, and I'm just checking the performance of bind versus calling it. You see it's different. The node 6.2 is lower, bind is lower with the versus the wrapper, but well, let's not even use v7. Okay, in latest master, you just built this. So no, in latest master, probably also v7. In latest master, it should come out. Should come out slightly faster. Yes. Oh no, still slower. I don't know. Not good.
It's definitely faster, even if they're both faster.
I think they're both the same. There is a slightly, it's skewed because of my thingy, but you see that it's skewed because of the Hangouts. So yeah. I can probably send you the code and you can run it after.
I mean that's so what I was trying to figure out is that if the dot bind was significantly slower in the older ones versus slightly faster in the newer ones, then it does make sense to remove those. It's just that will be a bit of a maintenance thing to make sure that.
Now the problem is on the stream side of things. So on the browser is not a problem, okay?
Mm-hmm.
On instead in versions of Node now something like through2 can be used to process a large pipeline of data.
Mm-hmm.
And if we change this, we will just get through2 way slower if we use bind.
Yeah. So it sounds like at least for now, we should probably put that in. They'll need to make sure that it actually, in future versions, it doesn't actually get reverted, because it's hard to test for that, because it's just sort of
impossible. So it is the problem. Now it's impossible to test for it, and we will need to watch what's going on. It's probably not changing because very few people touches that code base. So,
I mean, whenever I build a new version, I always do, like, the first thing I do is I run it, and then I create a pull request so that I can look at what the actual changes are to see if anything weird gets changed. So I should be able to catch it. I'll just have to remember. Or that's just something we'll have to remember about.
So, what do you think? Hey, Matthias. So we were discussing bind. The fact that now in core so now node master using bind.
Okay.
Inside streams, because bind in latest node is now fast.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's cool.
So, however, I am arguing that we should not use bind in readable stream.
Because of the old versions?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense, Calvin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's not the browsers. The browsers are not the problem.
Well, the browsers, it's all over the place.
It's fast enough. In the browsers, it's already fast enough. Okay, it's more about like through2 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the first item of the thing. Let me get to the list of stuff. The second item, and I just wanted to show a nice thing to you guys. It's you probably have seen this. I don't know, you, Calvin. I posted it, and I done some research on making transfer stream fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I've written this magical
sync through.
Sync through, yes.
Mhm.
That does the same thing as a through, but without any buffering, because it turns out that the problem is the buffering. So it basically, and as a transform stream, you read and write on basically you don't. There are cases where you don't want buffering at all.
Yeah, if your thing is synced, you don't want buffering.
Exactly. If your thing is synced, you don't want to buffer. So that is like super fast. So it's it might be something we want at some point to add to transform. I don't know if that's how that API will look like. Okay, I'm just saying it that it's something that we might want to go into if we want to improve the situation. If not, it can stay as it is. It can stay as it is.
I mean, it's definitely.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say we can mention your thing from the docs as a beginning.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
So, I mean, my rule of thumb is usually that streams are aren't for when you like long stream transforms are not for when you care about latency, because the idea is that because the streams by definition sort of add an element of latency, and in exchange you get back pressure and laziness. So while it's definitely, while I often violate this rule a lot, and while usually it means that if that's becoming a place where there's where your app is slowing down, usually it means that streams might not have been the best idea in the first place.
Yeah,
for what you were doing.
I agree with you. But the people are using them anyway.
I know.
Is there any way? Couldn't you port your solution pretty easy to core by checking if the callback is synced?
It might be a new class. It might be to be. I don't know. I need to have a look. I don't know. This is.
In theory, you should be able to.
I think you should.
If you drastically lower the high water mark, wouldn't that more or less do that?
The problem is all the callbacks being involved.
But couldn't you just check that the callback is being called sync, and then cache the callback? Wouldn't that work?
So the one of the problem is right now transfer streams are based on top of the bright mechanism. And all the fact that there is the outside on the readable mechanism. So what it does when you do a transform, what it happens, it becomes this dot push. It's like the same thing as doing this dot push in a readable stream. Okay, so there is all that logic going on, which is a huge piece of things. It's not. Well, it might be possible to actually sidestep all of that in override some of that behavior in transform. But I don't know. Well, anyway, I just wanted to. This is more for reasoning. So if there is anything that we might want to improve, this is definitely an area.
I think this is actually a really interesting case because a lot of people use transform streams as like encoders and decoders, and they always sync. So if we can speed it up in general for that would be super cool.
Yeah, like if there was like a sync option that just removed any callbacks, removed the ability to use callbacks.
Sync option, or like figuring out if we can just do it magically, which it would be better, I think. But yeah.
We can detect that. It's not a big problem.
Well, I mean, detecting that in a way that isn't like that, because we could see how many like arguments transform takes.
Yes.
Oh no! I would just do it if I wanted to do it magically. I would just say keep the callback, and then just check if the callback is being called in the same tick. as the transform function.
And then speed it up greatly.
We actually don't we do that. I'm pretty sure.
We are already doing that, but the problem. So there is a couple of issues on. So the problem is the buffering. Okay. Now it all passes through the buffering mechanism. The thing that speeds things up here is the fact that it skips all the buffering.
So couldn't you do a thing where you just kind of like do lazy buffering, where you only start doing buffering on the first async transform,
Yes.
and then you just switch into buffer mode?
Yes, that would be the magic.
I think that would be the way to go. That would be super cool. I don't know. I'm not unsure how big the change would be, but it would be like.
I don't know. I can have a look. I have a long flight ahead at some point next week, so it might be a nice thing to.
The other
No, go ahead.
The other place where you might get into problems, even if it was totally sync, would be if you have a single input that makes a whole lot of output. That may.
Like you mean like multi push?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can just be defensive and say if you use the push thing, it just goes into buffer mode, and then this is only like if you do one push.
No, it's a multiple push are not a big problem. It is what I'm saying is, so if you are reading, so if you are doing multiple push synchronously, you already have all the data in, okay?
Yeah.
And there is always the buffering layer on the writable side.
Yeah.
So we can keep all of that, and even if the write return false is fine, we just need to make sure that we return false as well when people writing us.
Okay. So it's just about disabling the readable buffer. Is that what you're saying?
It's all about detecting that it's synchronous, and if it's synchronous, keep the output, the readable buffer. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Oh yeah, that in theory, yeah, looking into doing that in core would be very helpful.
I'm just saying if we can do that in core and not change the API, it would benefit a lot of people that's using like JSON parse or something like that.
Yeah.
Hi. So that's on. So you'll look into it while you're on your long flight.
I will. This is the type of things you want to do when you're flying, like phone, and you just do your thing more or less. It's probably nothing. The end result will be scrambled code. It might work, might not. I don't know. So okay. So what else is there?
That's cool stuff, though. Like super cool. It's like really good stuff.
Yeah, if we can do it, yes, I would say it's might be a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
Then next item of the thing, there is well, let's keep a symbol async iterator to the very last. We're still waiting for Benjamin. I hope Benjamin joins, but it might not. It seems not to at this point. Matthias, have you had the chance to look at my proposal for the APS? I pasted it in the gist.
Which gist?
It's in the issue of this meeting.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm also adding it in the chat, and I can also screen share.
I'm looking at the gist now. Oh yeah, I saw the discussion around this. Yeah.
So, what do you think, guys?
I think it's good.
It will be good to if you could go through it and try to.
Do you think it's doable for 8? When is 8 going out? Isn't that soon?
April.
So like, yeah, okay. No, that's doable.
It's not, again, doing it in this way is not out of work, okay? So there is some challenges in that I wrote that we need to tackle, okay? So we might. I'm just saying that I would like to keep the Git history. So we might just do maybe a new repository. I don't know. I'm just saying it loud, okay?
Uh-huh.
Or not. And then there is how we route issues, like a little bit of process between the two things. So it's and where docs lives. That's third question. So, but again, this is, I don't know. I think reading this document, I think where it's a little bit poor is on the motivation for this change.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Right. Yeah, it doesn't really say anything about that.
yes, so it will be good if you can a little bit brainstorm about that.
Uh-huh.
To add a little bit more substance. Okay, I know we all agree on it, so it's not.
You want to do that now?
I don't know. It depends. We can do it offline, depending on what you guys want to do.
I mean, there's a couple of straightforward things that we've been talking about. You could add, like, it's a huge pain right now to figure out what the version should be, because
Yeah.
we can't really figure it out. That's like the biggest. That was like the motivator for the entire thing.
Yeah.
So I would add that.
Yeah, I'm taking notes. Then
Also,
I will amend the doc.
we would get rid of all the build things, right? Wouldn't we, by doing this, more or less, which is super cool.
We
Almost.
they'd probably end up. We'd probably end up having two different build steps, quite possibly, as possibly like a build for Node and a build for not Node, in
Okay.
theory. Or I probably, well, no, let's see, because we'd have to deal with. Yeah, there might be a build step for integrating into Node. That can also be part of however the stuff is taken into Node. I feel one of the things is like how the actual readable streams will be set up. Will it be just like how it is currently, as it's the one that's for internal Node, and then we turn it into something that can be used outside of Node internals, or do we have it, or do we write the thing that can be used outside of internal Node, and then transform it into something that can be used internal into Node?
So my idea is to keep the thing as it is right now for internal Node, and then move it out of, and then improve the situation.
So it probably would be good to kind of note that down, actually, maybe.
Yeah.
Like your process, like the process flow as to how you feel like implementing it.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Add a comment, Irina. That would be really, really helpful, because I will. So it's not good to review these documents on Hangout for me. So it's sit down and process all the. I can do only one thing at a time, so it's really hard.
No, I'll add it in.
Where would the tests live?
Yes, so this is one of the biggest challenges that we need to discuss. So I would say that we own the tests.
Why wouldn't they live with us? What's the benefit of the other way?
No, I mean, well, just that we need something. We need streams would now be a special snowflake when it comes to the Node suite of tests. Would just be the main thing.
Well, I think I would frame it in a way that this is like, in the grand scheme of things, this is how more projects inside Node should be done anyway.
Yeah.
So we're just like the pioneering project. So we get to.
Yeah, big.
Yeah. So, and if we don't pick, and if we don't own the test, then it's like weird half and half, and we haven't really solved anything.
All right, that should be noted. All right, so here's the other thing: the tests in Node are weird, really, really weird.
Well, fine. The moment we own them, we can just rewrite them.
Right.
Well, actually, yeah. So, well, rewrite them again. I did it once when I ported them to the browser. That could at least be a stepping off point.
How many tests are there now? Is there a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I mean, it's doable. I did it in a couple hours, but it was a bit of a pain.
Yeah, well, the nice thing there might be that because of the fact that we own the tests, all of that might be easier, so we don't have to move around and pass them and so on.
There's 69 tests at the moment.
Okay, so that's probably doable.
Yeah, it's doable, and I've done a lot of them. So any ones that haven't been changed since I ported them all over to, any tests haven't been updated since in the last 5 months or 2 years ago. When did I? Oh no, that was 2 years ago. Wow. Any that haven't been changed in the last 2 years are ones that we don't need to update because
how have the tests moved along?
What?
How are the tests moved when you do the in the build process? Do we port the test or we don't?
Yes, we bring the tests over, but then there's another set of them that I rewrote so they'd work in the browser.
Oh, okay.
And so those are the ones that I'm talking, because like we ideally want all of them to work in the browser. So we'd want all of them to, not rely on process exiting and, actually use a test runner. So that's what I was meaning about. Yeah. So that would be, yeah. So I'll put a note that, tests and, test runners.
Yes. Well, yes, we will. We need a section on testing really on this document. So, yes, I will amend that. We should amend. I will amend that and add this in. So it's important. Yes, the whole testing story. It's actually, I would say, is one of the motivators to some extent. So we can. So the set of tests for these should run in the browser as well easily. Should run on Node. Should run on previous versions of Node.
Yeah.
Without much maintenance, more or less.
Yeah. And it should also be easy to run the tests from Node so that Node can make sure they don't break anything.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because right now, if a change breaks the browser, we don't know. That's the problem. That's one of the problems.
Well, yeah. We know somewhat because we know based on the test that I ported 2 years ago, which is the majority, which is some of the older ones. I haven't been keeping up on those.
Yeah.
But and all the older ones, which are sort of the stream basics. But yeah, we don't do it as well as we could.
Yeah.
And that's also will be nice because it will mean that people adding stuff to the common.js testing file doesn't break the test every single goddamn time, which is the majority of the maintenance stuff. It's like, oh, somebody added a reference to CPUs, breaking stuff.
Yeah, I know. So yes, the whole testing story it's a nice one. It's a nice one to tackle. Yep, I completely forgot about that. So thank you guys. I will do another round on these docs tomorrow, and incorporate all the changes. If you have any changes, I will add some testing and so on. If you have any other ideas or things, please send it out because I would really like to put to node.js next week.
Hey, Matteo, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I remember you talking about submitting this draft previously, like in Amsterdam during Node Interactive.
Yes.
Have you submitted this before, or is this the first time?
No, it's the first time. That's the first time I got.
Oh, okay. I just thought like
that was
maybe
my
you can go through the first couple of times.
That's my latest.
Okay, cool.
We have multiple level of transfer streams before something like it's one. It has been a crazy.
No, sorry. I don't mean to guilt trip you into not doing it. I was just wondering if the first couple of times didn't pass, and now you have to revise it. So
it was never
sorry if it came out that way.
So I feel very guilty now. You see.
Oh my God! I'm so sorry.
Very, very guilty.
I'll do the Canadian thing and apologize 10 times.
No worries. It's fine. It's just fun stuff. Okay. Yes. So no, it's never submitted. There was a general agreement in Amsterdam that this was a good thing to submit. So
Cool.
if we
Cool.
can,
I'm glad you're doing it then. Awesome.
yeah. So now I think it's okay. Please let me know all your comments, more or less, so that we can move this over. If you have any time, of course. So I'm flying out on Tuesday, so I would like to get this submitted on maybe Monday evening or something, so I can. So that's done, because otherwise it will become when I come back, which is 2 weeks later. So.
Where are you flying to?
New York.
Ah, cool.
So yeah. Work.
Right.
So yes, next thing it's something you will definitely like, Matthias. It's about promises. I know you're a fan. So it's about async iterator.
Uh-huh.
And
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Hmm?
I think. What's that?
So async iterator, it's a stage 3 proposal that looks fairly like it's probably going to go through. It's sort of like iterators, like the current iterator generator thing.
Mhm.
Async. So instead of the next method returning a object with a value and a done number, it returns a promise for that.
Huh.
So you can use them within sort of async await style patterns, and you can do an async iteration there.
Okay.
It's sort of, well, for some reason there was all that like PR about observables and stuff. This is looking like the one that's actually going to be useful. That and it's sort of it actually kind of lines up well with a readable stream. So the idea is adding the symbol method to streams, to readable streams, to allow you to do async iteration on it.
Add a what method? Sorry.
So there's a symbol.iterator method,
Okay.
and there's a symbol.async iterator. Is this one that allows you to basically do? I think the syntax is like for async foo on bar.
Just let me share my screen again so I can show the thingy. Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this was the original issue that triggered all of this. This was originally posted on the CTC repository. Okay. And I said, well, we should talk about it over here, because this is the team that should do it. So this is the interface. It has a next thingy, as Calvin said, with a promise. And then there is a nice implementation that Calvin did, which is an empty npm page. So yeah,
It had a little bit of stuff on npm.
No, you pushed it, but it has an empty. It's sparse. It's very sparse. Nice one. Okay.
Efficient.
So it is the. I really like this to show this, because it sums up what is the situation. Okay. So I think these can be really useful for when we get async await on in core. Okay, when this lands in V8 and we get it in core, I don't know when this will happen. Okay, so but
how does that thing error handle? How does error handling work with that?
It's with the promises stuff. So there is .catch.
Well, so inside of the for loop, or the inside of the async await, how familiar are you with async await?
I heard the term before. Yeah.
All right. So it's basically like co. Have you used co at all?
No.
All right. So basically, it's that the keyword await synchronously, or it asynchronously resolves the promise and returns the value.
Okay.
So you can then treat async values like they are synchronous, but with a flag, so it's not sort of, so there's no like weird like pausing it when you don't know. So in that case, in that context, errors throw. So you just treat them like synchronous errors.
Okay.
And then the whole thing returns a promise that eventually you'll at some point have to deal with. There is some talk of making modules have top level async await. So implicitly wrap in a, so that async function on line 19 in there, that's making a special function that allows you to use await inside of it. So there's some talk of having modules implicitly be wrapped in an async function. So await is available on the top layer, on the top level. Until then, you have to create an async function to be able to use this kind of stuff.
Cool. Okay. So this is equivalent to doing an on data on end thing today.
Yes.
No, because it's I did it as a pull stream, so that it does the more complex, like on readable, then we read. It's in the other one.
But like, I mean, like use case wise, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yes, use case wise, yeah.
Yeah, but it respects back pressure.
Yeah.
It respects back pressure. Oh, because that thing can do like sync things.
Yes,
Yeah.
that thing can do a sync thing with a wait, so you can.
Okay. So would this be equivalent then to kind of having
A transfer stream, yes.
transfer stream, right? Or piping into a writable stream where you do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just a little bit nicer ergomatic API.
Sure.
So I think we can the output that we can say is, apart from the fact that this is going to be very hard on the amount of promises that we need to create, because that's one of the problem in this API. It creates a lot of promises. Okay, so it's not going to be fast. Apart from this, I think it's.
How much does this blow up the browserify bundle?
So I don't want to actually include this in core.
Yes.
Especially because the async iterator spec is not actually finalized technically. It's only stage 3. So it's one of those probably. This is like it's final draft stuff. But I would not actually want to include this until that's the case. Because currently you'd have to, I mean, this would probably not actually blow up the bundle at all if we did it right.
Because there's no new dependencies. It's all like
if there is no promises, it just doesn't trigger. Like is this code?
Promises are already included in Node, so we wouldn't have to make. So there wouldn't actually be any dependencies.
Yeah, no, I'm saying exactly. And well, if they are not, if it's an older version of Node that doesn't include promises, then there's no point in having this. So it's more or less, it's very easy to say, oh well, if this is nothing. If there is the underlying capability to handle this, then it's not needed.
Yeah. And the syntax is all in how you use it. The actual interface is all ES5 based.
So yeah, I would say we can say to Benjamin that we are good with the API.
Yeah, I mean, probably fine. This looks okay.
But yeah.
I mean, one thing would be that I always forget that simply trying to read a single thing out of a stream and getting it as a callback on demand is so much more difficult than you'd think. So
Yeah,
definitely having somebody looking over my code to make sure that I'm actually doing what I think I'm doing.
No, I know. I went through it. Is in fact
right.
There are a lot of things that can be improved here, but that's not. It's I went through this. I think it's feasible, like to reuse some of the functions, okay, and avoid all those allocations more or less.
What's the okay? So if I'm being like a purist, what's the benefit of including it into the stream instead of just having it be this module, which is fine?
Because you'll be able to iterate through any stream
instead of having to wrap it in your thing.
Yeah, and that would include inside of Node, like native things from Node.
Assuming that the streams I get are on the latest version, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it's one of those things that it's I think it might simplify a lot of use cases.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of people that have trouble in understanding the back pressure. It also is not really well documented either. So that's
my main. I think my main negative feedback would be that we have two very different patterns from dealing with streams by adding this. I mean, this feature makes sense if you want to do that iterator thing, but then it's like very different from the pipe flow, right?
Yeah.
Which is like that's a red flag for me. Like, oh, we have this thing and then we have this completely other thing instead of just having one thing that you always do.
Yeah.
Which by adding it to core, I mean, as a module, it always makes sense because then it's like you can just use the module. But by adding it to core, we have the two stories now.
Well, there already are several stories because piping and getting and reading data out are already, two different ones. This would.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but nobody uses the read method. Everybody just uses pipe, I think, don't they?
I mean, or the on data. I see this as the on data. Like this is, I see this as more being a more ergonomic version of on data.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from seeing a lot of so there is a lot of problems in on data, on how people use on data on the wild without. Yeah. Hi, Elena.
I'm still at the office. Some people are leaving.
Okay. So yeah, it was nice. No, on data is fine. It has some problems on when people use on data, so that tend to blow up the memory more or less and not handle it correctly. I don't know if you.
So that's my I see this as an upgrade to on data and a much less foot-gunned way to get data out quickly.
Yeah.
And that's where I see it being a benefit.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's now. There is also the possibility that this can be implemented in a slightly different way. If no, actually, forget what I said. I see this as a better way of supporting promises for streams rather than the whatever. So that one of the problems in the promises, original promises discussion was that applying them to streams was a very big task.
Yeah, but I mean, so if you add this to core, you're just gonna have this. You might have this. You have this promise-based readable API, but then you have a callback-based writable API, and you have a callback-based transform API, and we can never change those. But we're gonna get a shitload of pressure to change those all of a sudden because we're doing this.
Yeah, but I think we will.
And yeah, but it's gonna be worse by doing this because then you're like, by giving in a little bit, then you're.
Well, so the I guess there's
I'm only talking about adding it to core. I'm not.
I mean, I guess the difference in this is that it's an implementation of a protocol versus an adding a feature, is the way I see it. This would work very well if you could get promises back from writable.write. That's something that we have to wait till core does, whatever core does.
We can never do that though. I mean, write returns a value already.
I know. So I'm saying that however they come up with dealing with callback methods that also return values.
Yes.
Whoever knows.
I don't think that ever gets. I don't think that ever gets.
Anyway, at some point that will. So from the next version of Node, there will be a very high pressure to get that sorted because of sync await. So ideally, we can keep prototyping this in this fashion if it goes along, and maybe at some point reverse the discussion. Anyway, the discussion to adding it to core or not, it's something we can absolutely postpone.
Yeah, because nobody's saying we should add it to core now. We're saying we should add it to core whenever it reaches stage 4.
I would say Node v10.
Okay, sure.
That might be like a year from now, okay? Like, or maybe v9, but.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right.
I think we are good to go. Also because we have almost finished our time slot. Do you have anything more you want to add?
No.
Yep. Go ahead.
There's been no progress on the improvement doc about destroy and end, because I'm pretty sure, did I promise to write it?
I promised to write some of it, and I think you promised to write the other half. And none of us probably did anything.
Yeah, none of us have done anything.
So I'm only be the good one that from Amsterdam did something,
Yeah. That's why we were being real quiet when Arena was calling you out. What about the summit thing we talked about in Amsterdam? Is that happening at some point this year? Has there been any?
That might be a very good idea, in fact. I can try to. Calvin, will you be up for some traveling? That's the first question.
Oh yeah. I can. I'm down for traveling. It's there's more of this that my, I was moving or closing on a house when that thing happened, so I couldn't do that. But yeah, no, I can definitely travel, especially if I know about it in advance. I can often get my work to try to pay for it.
Yeah, I think also the foundation can provide some budget. So
yeah.
Okay, there's going to be a collaborator summit at some point. There's a discussion over. So we might want to attach a full day together with that. That might simplify things.
Yeah.
You know approximately when that is?
May probably.
Okay, cool. I was about to say as long as it's like.
Or we can plan it for May anyway and then do it.
As long as it's in the beginning.
Or are they doing 2 again this year? There's one in October.
There's going to be only one interactive, I think, in the US. That's my bold guess.
I think that's in October.
Now we need to leave this now we can continue on ERC if you want to talk about the summit, because there is another meeting starting on this channel afterwards.
Oh.
All right, so
We are in the official Node.js thing right now, so.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye.